Hello, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to review the Los Gatos real estate market analysis for February 2009. My name is Robert Whitelaw. I'm a licensed real estate broker in the state of California. I'm also a member of the National Association of Realtors and a certified ePro. And I am also the president and CEO of Whitelaw & Sons Real Estate Services, serving all of Silicon Valley. If you'd like to get in contact with me, you can find my website at www.soldbyrobert.com. There you'll find all of my weekly podcasts. You'll also find all of my video presentations on market analysis presented down at the bottom of the website. And you'll also find articles and other things I've written relating to real estate. If you'd like to check those out, you'll find those at that website. If you'd like to get in contact with me directly, feel free to email me at robert@soldbyrobert.com. If you would prefer to call, feel free to dial 408-852-0525. If you prefer to use an online instant messaging program like AOL Instant Messenger, Google Talk, or Yahoo IM, feel free to use the screen name The Rebel Broker to get in touch. Or if you're a Skype user, just use Rebel Broker. Finally, referrals are always appreciated. Or if you or anyone you know is interested in buying, selling, or investing in real estate in the Silicon Valley area, please feel free to get in contact with me and I'll help you in any way I can. And of course, if you are interested in real estate anywhere in the United States, I can jump through the hoops to find just the right agent for your needs. So whether you're interested in buying, selling, or investing in real estate, give me a call and I'll find the perfect agent for you in your area. Now let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at the numbers for February of 2009 for Los Gatos, California. Now the first thing we're going to look at is the inventory statistics for Los Gatos. And as you can see, those have had a dramatic rise over the past couple of years. Now remember, this is just the month of February, going back to 1999. So we're sort of just getting a really big view of just this month of February. Now the reason why this is particularly important and a good place to start is that we don't get any of the usual seasonal influences. This is all just the month of February, so you don't need to worry about whether or not it's summertime or anything else. This is just February. Now, as you can see, we've had a pretty dramatic increase in inventory numbers since 2007, where we had a nice drop there. Now, other parts of the county had experienced the hit of the down market earlier than Los Gatos, but it's very clear that Los Gatos has finally been hit. The inventory numbers are actually up 45.38% from the same time last year. So between February of 2008 and February of 2009, we saw inventory increase 45.38%. That means we have 54 more homes on the market in Los Gatos this year in February than we did the same time last year. And that gives us a grand total of 173 homes currently on the market in Los Gatos. Now we'll go ahead and take a look at the number of homes that have been listed in Los Gatos. We can see that number's remained relatively stable compared to last year, but it's still more homes being listed in the month of February than we'd normally like to see. And I know that when you look at previous years, you can see there's actually been years where the number of homes listed was higher. What's concerning now is the inventory. With the inventory where it is right now, getting more and more folks adding their homes to the inventory is a bad thing because that's just too many homes out there on the market for the number of buyers that we currently have. Now, new listings actually rose 7.81%. That shows as actually down from 2008, so it's 5 fewer homes listed in the month of February of 2009 than the month of 2008. So that's good news. At least it's headed in the right direction, but we'd like to see that number decrease even more. That gives us a grand total of 59 homes that were listed in Los Gatos in the month of February. Now if we go ahead and take a look at sales, we can actually see it was flat. In fact, it is exactly the same as it was last year. No change. There was no increase in the number of homes that was sold, no decrease. We sold 16 homes in Los Gatos, and that's the same number of homes that were sold in 2008. Now, you can see in general that's not great performance. You can see that February's, for instance, in 2007, 2006, 2005, we had higher sales in all of those years. So the overall picture we should get from this, things are, the good news is staying flat. We're not seeing an increase in the good news, and good news would be sold homes. But we're seeing increases in the numbers that really can make things bad quickly. The inventory has jumped up so much from last year that's a bit of a concern. It's something we should be worried about. When you get that many homes competing for buyers, and as you can see from these sold numbers, not an increase in the number of homes being sold. So that implies that we have about the same number of buyers as we did last year. But now they have so many more homes to choose from. If you want to get your home sold, you really need to be much more competitive than in past years. Now let's go ahead and take a look at these same numbers, but just focusing on months back. So now instead of looking at just the month of February going all the way back to 1999, we're going to look chronologically back behind us now and see what's the trend been. Now, as you can see with the inventory, clearly the trend is up. We've had a few minor peaks and valleys, but very clearly we're seeing a dramatic increase in inventory, and it's been a pretty steady increase across the year going all the way back to October of 2007. Now, what we might want to do here is try and see if we can divine where inventory numbers might go from here. Now, if we look back to December, January, and February of last year, we saw that last year there was a steady increase from December to January to February. Now, that's all very natural. Remember, this now is being affected by seasonal influences. Now, whereas before we were just looking at February, now we're just looking straight back on the calendar, and we can see that as we came out of winter, inventory really started to ramp up all the way up till April, where it sort of topped out and then stayed flat all the way through to the end of the summer selling season. And then in September, we got another jump in those inventory numbers. So we're not seeing a big change in the trend from last year. We're seeing that in December and January we saw increases. So what would we logically expect for the coming months? Well, unfortunately, we would expect that right up until April we're going to continue to see these inventory numbers increase. That's not great news for us, particularly if the sales numbers don't increase with them. But we'll take a look at that in a second and see if we can do a little fortune telling based on those numbers relating to sales. Now, before we do that, let's go ahead and take a look at the homes added to the market. Now, see a gradual increase in the number of homes that have been increased over the year, but you can also see we've had a few high points. Last year during the summer, obviously, more homes were getting listed. What's the relationship between last year and this year? Well, December, January, February saw a steady increase in the number of homes that were listed. That's normal as we come out of wintertime again and folks are starting to get into the mindset of thinking they're going to try and get their homes sold in the upcoming summer season, which is only a few months away. Once we get into January and February, more folks list their home. And then once we get into March and April, that's usually where we tend to top out, and those folks will try to get those properties sold all through the summer months. Now, in this year, in the 08-09 season here for winter, we can see that we didn't get sort of the steady increase that we would normally get. We saw a huge increase in January in the number of homes that were listed, and then about the same number of homes in February. So are we seeing just what's the explanation for that? Are there just more people jumping in earlier in the market? That's a distinct possibility. There may be folks out there that think that the market may be going down more, and this is their last chance to cash out and take advantage of the fact that Los Gatos has tended to maintain higher average home prices than other areas. No real way to know without getting out there and asking these folks the question. But it might just be that some folks wanted to come out in 2009 ready to get their home sold, and they were just waiting for the winter period to end. So where will we go from here? Well, if last year's any indicator, we will see an increase between February and March, and then we may see an actual decrease if this goes the same as it did last year. Given what we saw in January, my feeling is that we may actually see a little bit more of a dramatic jump between February and March and see that number stay steady like we did last year all the way through the summer months. I'm not projecting huge sales for this summer season. Let's go ahead and take a look at those sold numbers, though, and see if that gives us any insights. Now, you can see sales are up from last month. Now, I'll give you the full rundown on how much these increase from month to month, but let's sort of try and step back and get an idea of where we are. Now, you can see that sales over the course of the year now we did the year-to-year comparison, but if we look at just the trend indicated by that bottom trend line, we can see that the number of sales has actually trended down. We did get a boost in sales in 2008 in the May, June, July timeframe, so the typical summer sales months, which worked out well for Los Gatos. I am not as optimistic that we will see that sort of performance in 2009. I think 2009 is going to be another relatively flat year, simply because short sales and foreclosures make up so much of what's going on right now, and since there are so few of them in Los Gatos, I really don't see those making up having enough of an effect on the Los Gatos market to really boost those home sold numbers as much as they are in some other areas where short sales and foreclosures are much more predominant. So what trend did we see last year from the December to February timeframe? Does that really give us an idea that the same trend is happening this year? Well, it does a bit. We can see that between December and January, the number of homes sold dropped. Now, that's normal. That's a typical seasonal thing. Actually, it's only normal for this abnormal market. Normally, we would expect to see home sales dipping in general across the winter months. This year compared to last month, do we expect to see the same sort of trends after February? Well, we can see in January and February of last year, it was relatively flat. In fact, it looks like we had identical sales with a bit of a ramp up after that point. I would guess that we will continue to see a ramp up. We've had a ramp up between January and February. We may get another one between February and March, but I don't think it'll be as marked between April and May as it was in 2008. And, of course, as we head into those months, I'll pass that information on. Now, in the inventory numbers, when compared month to month, the change between January and February of 2009, inventory increased 9.49%. That's 15 more homes on the market than were on the market in January. The number of homes that was listed actually decreased by 4.84%. That is 3 fewer homes listed in the month of February than in the month of January, so that's good news. Sales were up 77.78%. Between January and February. That's 7 more homes sold in February in Los Gatos than in January. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some of the short sales data. Now this is the first month I've actually had an opportunity to include this slide with the Los Gatos analysis. Last month we only had 1 foreclosure property in the entire mix, so it really didn't make sense to create a chart like this. This month we've seen a dramatic increase in the number of short sales and foreclosures. It still doesn't approach what we've seen countywide or in some other communities, but it makes it clear that the down market has definitely got a hold of the Los Gatos market. Now let's go ahead and take a look. As you can see, short sales made up 13% of the number of homes that sold. Foreclosures made up another 13%, and conventional sales made up 75%. Now to sort of break that up, remember that we had 16 total homes sold in the month of February. So 2 of them were short sales, 2 of them were foreclosures, and 12 of them were conventional mainstream sales. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the home prices over past years. Remember, this is just the month of February, going all the way back to 1999. Now, for a long time, Los Gatos managed to really resist the trend of lots of other communities in Santa Clara County where prices were dropping dramatically from 2005 and 2006 onward. All during that time, Los Gatos enjoyed an increase in property values. This is, and we've seen this trend now for the last few months. Los Gatos has finally seen that number start to drop. Now, the average home price was down 7.76% in Los Gatos in February from the same time last year. That's a $119,697 drop. Now, the average home price was $1,423,271. Now, the median also dropped, and that dropped 23.36%. For a dollar change of $366,500. The median price was at $1,202,500. Now, again, what does this tell us? This tells us that while the average price was where it was, at about $1.4 million, the median price tells us the exact middle point of the volume of homes. So if 100 homes had sold, that median would tell us that 50 of them were below the median price and 50 of them were above the median price. So since that median bar is below the average price, that tells us that the volume of homes that were getting sold tended to be below the average price. So we obviously had a couple of properties that sold at the high end here in Los Gatos that are skewing that average price a little bit, since a higher number of homes at the lower end were getting sold. Now, the highest priced home in Los Gatos was at 300 Santa Rosa Drive, and it sold for $3,100,000. It originally listed, at least according to the records that are going to go out and the pundits are going to use to tell you how the market's doing, they're going to say that home listed originally for $4,300,000 and that its total days on market was 545 days. Now, what's interesting is that this home ultimately sold as a short sale. That means that it sold for below the loan amount on that property. Now, in reality, if we go back, this home has been on the market off and on since 2005. It listed in 2005 for $7,995,000 and then inexplicably relisted again in 2006 for $10 million. How someone managed to be convinced that they could sell their house a year later for $2 million more than they couldn't sell it for a year ago is resist logic. And then it listed again for $7,888,000 in 2000. Let's see, they did that in 2008. So this has seen a lot of fluctuation in price. Ultimately, they did drop the price to $4.3 million when they relisted it again. But this is sort of an indication of what the process of relisting can do to you. It can make you think that someone only dropped their price from $4.3 million to $3.1 million, when in reality, their original asking price was about double that asking price. So big drop in the expectations on the seller on this particular property. Now the lowest price, and I actually saw that property twice. It was a beautiful home. I can remember when I think I went and took a look at it back in. In fact, when I think I saw it when it was still listed at $7,995, or right around when it was put up to $10 million. And even then, I can remember thinking that this just doesn't jive with the numbers, and that this property is extremely overpriced. Now, if you look at the lowest price single-family residential home, it's at 16280 Green Ridge Terrace. That's sold for $710,000, listed for $719,900. What was good about that property was it was right in the ballpark of an acre, but the house itself was just basically almost a tear down. I mean, what's probably going to happen if someone bought that property is they'll tear that house down and build something right on it. And this was just right off of Blossom Hill, so it's not way off in the boondocks. But it was a property that definitely needed some work. Now, the average price per square foot for the month of February was $551.57. The last month's average price per square foot was $593.83. So we've actually had a drop, excuse me, not last month, but from last year, of $593 per square foot. So we've had it drop from the same time last year. Now, if we go ahead and take a look at the home prices just over past months, we'll be able to see what sort of the fluctuations have been over the course of the year. And again, we'll look just at average price to start off. And what you need to remember in looking at this particular graph is that just like we can have, numbers can get skewed by a relatively small number of homes at the extremes. So in this case, you get homes that tend to, or months that tend to show higher because an extremely high-end home may have sold, so in the multiple millions of dollars. So what I've done here is added a trend line here to sort of give you an idea of what we've been seeing, and the trending has been down over the course of the year. So granted, from a year-to-year basis, from February to February basis, clearly prices are down, but we can see that overall in general that has been the case. Now when we bring in the median price, this is really more revealing. When you see a really big difference between those two graphs, that tells you something. That tells you that the average price is artificially high because the sheer number of homes is tending to be lower than that. So as you can see, the median price is sort of giving us a little bit more of an insight, and you can see that there were some months, particularly in January, where the median was actually higher. So many more higher-end homes were getting sold. So what we are in is a market where, while there may, in general, be more attention being spent to those homes below the average price, there are still opportunities out there for folks who want to get their property sold that are at the higher end. Just like in other market segments, you simply need to be offering the most at your price point. There are still folks out there who are buyers at this extreme high end, but just like shoppers down at the $500,000, $700,000, $1.2 million, $1.3 million, $1.8 million level, these folks want to get the very best for their money. And of course, there's a different definition of the best once you're talking about a $3, $4, $5 million home. But if you've got an agent who's marketing your home correctly and is identifying what those features are that people are after and pricing accordingly, you're going to get your property sold. It's still difficult, and there's still a high probability that you're not going to sell it for what you want to sell it for. But at least there's action out there. There are folks out there buying at those price ranges. Now, as I mentioned, the average price for a home in Los Gatos did sit at $1,423,271 in February. The price change between January and February was a decrease of 8.61%. That's a dollar drop of $134,117. Median price change was down 28.10%. That's a price change of $470,000. And again, the total number of homes that sold in February was 16. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the number of days it took to get a home sold in Los Gatos. Now, as you can see on this particular chart, I have two numbers, or two designations for 2009. One of them is a modified 2009. I'll explain why I've done that. As you know, sometimes we'll see months where a home or two sell that are just way out there in the number of days. Now, a good example is the one that also happened to be the most expensive home of February of 2009, where it was on the market for 545 days. Now, the next closest home for 545 days was below 545 days was 190. So that tends to skew the numbers way out there. So what I've done is given you two bars here. One is 97 days, and that's including the 545-day sale of the property that we were talking about earlier. And the 67 days is the average if you exclude that highest property. So it's a pretty substantial difference. I wanted to let you sort of see it at the 67-day mark, because I think for the average person selling a home in Los Gatos right now, that 67-day mark is a much more realistic time frame. Now, in context, that's actually not too bad. When you compare it to the county and other areas, properties are still selling fairly well. 67 days isn't that long to wait. In fact, 25% of the homes that did sell sold in 30 days or less in Los Gatos, and that's also a very good number. So if you've got the right marketing, if you're getting the right attention for your property, and all this depends on how good your real estate agent is, you can still get your home sold in a relatively reasonable amount of time. Now, the days to sell, and I'm doing a comparison now between the 97 days and the 129 days between 2008 and 2009, was a 29.46% drop, so 38 days less. And of course, obviously, that would be a much bigger number if we go off the 67-day number. Now, the lowest days on the market for any of these properties that sold in February was 0. There was one property that sold actually before it ever got onto the MLS. That's a nice change. We usually get a couple of those in Los Gatos, at least we used to, in the way the market used to work. Haven't had any in a while, so it's nice to see that happening again. And of course, the longest days on the market, as I mentioned, was 545 days. Next closest was 190. Now, as I mentioned, homes that sold before they were listed on the MLS was 1. The total homes that sold between 1 and 7 days was 1. 4 homes sold between 8 and 30 days. Another 4 homes sold between 31 and 90 days. Another 4 homes sold between 90 and 180 days, and 2 homes sold in 180 days or more. So what we need to just take home from this, as far as folks who are out there looking to get their home sold, sellers who are trying to calibrate themselves to how long it's going to take to get their home sold, if you've marketed your home correctly, if you've got it priced correctly, I don't think that 60 to 90 days is a unreasonable expectation for getting your property sold. And of course, if you've had your home listed with someone longer than that, it might be time to start looking into another agent because they're clearly not getting it done. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the days to sell in past months, looking all the way back to September of 2007. And unfortunately, I have to click through every one of these months to get them up here. Okay. Now, and I've gone ahead and used the 67-day number. Now, you can see it's remained relatively flat, almost completely flat. I really do think that the 60 to 90-day number is the right one to hold on to. We haven't seen dramatic increases. Now, can we get anything away from this as far as where we can expect to go in the future? Well, February last year was another one of those months with an artificially high number for the same reasons. We had a couple of homes that sold that have been in the market forever. I would expect we actually see a drop in the total number of days to get homes sold in Los Gatos in the coming months. I think that while there's a lot more attention being spent on short sales and foreclosures that Los Gatos doesn't have a lot of, I still think we'll see a little bit of a boost in sales in Los Gatos, and that'll give us a little bit more attention, which I think will cause more homes to get sold. So we'll see how that pans out. We obviously saw some pretty good numbers last year from March to May, and then in June, July, and August, we saw those numbers jump up a little bit. Go ahead and stick with, if you're planning your 60 to 90-day planning as far as assuming how long it's going to take to get your home sold. I don't think there's anything unreasonable about that expectation. Now, if we let's see now the days to sell also. Let's see. Let's go back to that one. The days to sell for past month. I wanted to also give you what the change was. So from January to February, we saw a decrease of 29.47%, and that was a change of 28 days. So it was 28 days fewer to get your home sold in Los Gatos in February than it was in January, and that's using actually the artificially high number. All right, now let's go ahead and take a look at the locations. This is really just here for you to get an idea, see if there's any clustering, different areas that we're selling that for one reason or another are selling more than others. It's the typical areas that we see right here that tend to be straddled along the 17 freeway. A lot of them that on the other side of Los Gatos Boulevard and some of those great neighborhoods that we see, particularly when you look at the ones that are south of Shannon. We had 3 homes sell there. In the Los Gatos Boulevard Blossom Hill wedge that you can see that's made sort of like a pie piece made between Los Gatos Boulevard, Los Gatos Almaden, and Blossom Hill. We had 4 homes sell in that. Those are some pretty nice areas. For anyone who's interested in looking at the homes that are available in Los Gatos, I'll be happy to take you on a tour of that area, so feel free to give me a call. And here are all the various ways to get in touch with me. As I presented earlier in the presentation, you can find me at my website. Here's my email address. You can also contact me via telephone. And, of course, I'm also online using all the various chat software, including Skype. That's about it. I hope this was a helpful presentation for those of you out there, whether you're interested in buying, selling, or investing in real estate in Los Gatos. And I look forward to talking to you all next time.